So now that we are well familiar with what off-plan properties and investments are, and also who are the core participants in this investment model, I think it's time we understand the difference between off-plan properties and traditional residential properties, which also means secondary and finished properties. The first difference is purchase timing. For off-plan properties, the transaction occurs when the property is still under construction or building stages. While for traditional properties, we can say the transaction happens when the property is fully finished and it's available for inspection. The second key difference is pricing. So off-plan properties are typically offered at lower pre-construction price or below the market value with the potential for capital appreciation over time. While for traditional properties, they are offered at current market value with usually no room for discounts. And the third difference is when it comes to risk factors. Off plan carries more risk because you might experience construction delays, market changes, and also project cancellations. The third key difference is risk factors. When it comes to off plan usually have higher risks because of potential construction delays, market changes, and also project cancellations. While for secondary properties, there's lower risks because the property is already finished and you can inspect it before you buy it. The fourth key difference is in regards to financing. Because the off-plan model of investment usually is different, the payment usually comes in stages and installments, and the property is not yet built. It will be built in stages. So it's difficult to get financing from financial institutions and lenders. But because secondary properties and traditional properties are already built, it's easy to get loan from institutions, and also it's very, very easy to get mortgages for secondary properties compared to off-plan properties. The fifth aspect or key difference is in regards to customization. So with customization, the off-plan investor usually has more flexibility depending on the construction stage of the project to change the layout, select the finishing he wants for his property, which usually increases the value of the off-plan property before handover period or after handover period. But when it comes to secondary properties, all changes or attempts to increase the value of the property would be after post transaction, which means after transaction has occurred and the owner has full control of the property. That's when he can decide to make changes, which is usually tedious for investors. The sixth key difference is investment horizon. With off-plan properties are usually viewed as medium to long-term investments where there's room for potential gain and capital appreciation before completion of the project or handover of the project. And in terms of the legal consideration for traditional properties, it's usually more straightforward. It focuses on title deeds, documentation, and the property conditions. And for the eighth key difference, which is the delivery and handover, for off-plan properties, the property is delivered upon completion, which means it might take 12 to 18 months, or sometimes in international markets from 1 year to 5 years. But the delivery and handover for traditional properties is usually brief and seamless as long as due diligence has been conducted on the property conditions, the titles and documentation, and there's an exchange, financial exchange between both parties. The handover has been completed. And when it comes to legal consideration, which is the seventh key difference, off-plan investment usually requires more due diligence and more review, especially when it's regarding construction timelines, penalties for delays, and also deposit protections. And in terms of market dynamics as a difference or factor between off-plan and traditional properties. Usually off-plan properties are more susceptible to market changes, especially when it comes to foreign exchanges and currency devaluation in third world countries. While for traditional properties, the market value is established and it's mostly more stable than off-plan properties because it's difficult for it to change. Like it's less susceptible to market fluctuations and changes, both internal and external changes. And for the last key difference, which is in terms of exit strategy, The off-plan investors usually have the option to sell before completion and handover has been initiated and conducted. And also, they can decide to hold for rent or also just enjoy the capital appreciation advantage which they have over secondary investors. And for the traditional properties, they can be sold, rented, and occupied immediately, and which offers usually offers more flexibility to secondary investors that off-plan investors don't have.